Hello there and welcome. In this episode, we're going to continue working on the trivia series. We are almost done with all of the things that we wanted to do. We have the game working, we can send the data to the database, we have all of the different scenes, our placing, our high score scene, and the option scene. Today we're going to cover a few more things that we need to do before actually building the game. And if you don't know, building the game is the process of actually compiling this game into a file that we can install on our phone and run it. So it doesn't matter how things look over here in the inspector, what's important is how things look on our actual device. Obviously, after you build a game, you can test it out on your phone, or you can upload this file to any place that you want, for example, Google Play, or maybe share it with friends, because this will be the actual executable that other people will use. But before we can do this, there are a few things that we still need to finish in this application. First of all, there is one thing that we still need to fix from the previous episode. I also added this as a caption in the previous episode. It's just something that I've missed. When we changed the way we send the data to the database and we update the new name, we are not actually updating it in the database, right? We have the option to go to the option scene and then change the name of the user. But what we actually do is change the name locally on the device in the player pref, and we're not updating this name in the database. So this will not really help us, and we're not going to see any changes with our name. So we need to take care of this. Inside the settings manager that we created in the previous episode, when the player decides to change his name, over here, he can provide a new name and it will basically update it inside the local player pref. But we are not updating it in the online database, right? In Firebase. So it will still use his old name. For this, we're going to open our Firebase manager. And over here, we simply need to create a new method that is going to update the name of the user. Because over here, we have the send score. And we send all the different information. We send the user ID, the score. It will check if this ID exists. And if it is, it will simply update the score, but it will not update the name. And if this doesn't exist, if this ID doesn't exist, it will create a new user. So in our case, it will simply update the score of this ID, but the name will stay the same because we did not say it to change the name. So for this, we're going to copy this entire method, this sendScore method, and we're going to paste it over here between these two methods. Now we're going to rename it to update player name. And this method pretty much does what we want it to do. We just need to change a few things. First of all, we need to check if this user ID exists because we still want to use the same user ID. The only thing that we need to do is instead of updating the score, we want to update the player name. So over here, we're going to remove a few things. We're going to keep a few things. First of all, this will stay the same, but we want to remove this entire else part because we don't want to create a new user. So we simply delete this part over here. And now we are left with this part, but instead of updating the score, we are going to update the player name. And we're going to set the player name over here. So now we can call this method when we want to update the player name, when we actually change it in the device, and this will be used in our settings screen. And now to actually use it, we're going to save the script, we're going to open our settings manager, and over here, after we update the name inside the player pref, we are also going to update it in the database. So we're simply going to call this method. And now we need to provide it with the ID and with the name. We don't need the score because, so let's actually go to this method and remove the score because we don't really need it. Because we only want to update the name of this player. So over here, we need to provide it with the name and the user ID. So we already have the name. This is this new name that we changed. And for the ID, we can simply say user manager get user ID, and this will get the user ID out of the player pref, and it will use the new user ID. Of course, we can also say get username, because at this point we already updated the username. Okay, so we can do it this way, or we can just use this thing. It doesn't really matter. And now when the user will decide to change its name, it will update it in the database as well. Now, before we try to build our app, we need to do a few changes in the project. First of all, in our Firebase manager, we have two of these imports that we're not even using. And you can see that they're in a gray color compared to these ones. So it means that we are not even using them. And when we try to build this application, for some reason, it gives us an error. So we don't really need them. We're going to delete both of these lines. Another very important thing that we need to do is to open our build settings. And this is where we actually build this application. And over here, we need to make sure that our main menu is the first one, okay? So before this, it was somewhere over here. We did not really pay attention. So when you build the app, it will always run the first scene. So if you wondered how this application knows what will be the first scene, it depends on the one that is on top, the first one. So make sure that the main menu scene is the first one. Otherwise, it's going to open another scene and things will get broken. So just make sure the main menu is the first one, okay? Element 0. Now, another thing we need to do is click on player settings. We need to click on player, and over here, we need to set the different API levels. Now, I'm not going to explain this too much. You can go to Google and search for Android API levels to learn what it actually means. This is simply the version of the Android that is installed on your devices. And as different devices came out, they increased these levels. So if you want your game to work on older device, you should click over here, minimum API level, and select an older version. And the older version means that more devices, more older devices will be able to play your game. But it can also trigger different errors because you will have to install different things that will support older devices. Usually people don't use these devices anymore, so you should at least use Android 10 because you do want more devices to use your app. But also don't make it very high because then it will basically restrict you to only the newest phones. So I use Android 10, so simply select this version. Now for the target level, this is what we actually want to target as the optimal level for our code. So if you're going to put older versions or newer versions, it can cause problems. Now I check this, and this Android level 33, this is something you want to put, at least for now, for the current market. And when you're going to select this and build the game, it will first ask you to download the level 33 SDK. So you will have to download it and install it. Otherwise, it's simply not going to work. But make sure this is selected because as default, the automatic is selected. And this is not good because it's going to give you different problems. So select level 33 and it still means that you can use the newer device. If you have a very new device or maybe you're watching this tutorial in the future, then you will probably select level 34 or 35. But I think that level 33 is good enough. Now at this point you will be able to build your application, but just know that you may still encounter problems that are not related to the actual game, but just the way Unity is configured on your computer. If you never used Unity to build to Android, then you may encounter these initial problems, and then you're simply going to see them over here. You can copy the error and go to Google and search for a fix, okay? But just know that it's not related to the game, it's just related to the way Unity is installed and you probably did not configure everything as needed. So I can't possibly know what is wrong because your PC will have your own problems and another person's PC will have other problems. In order to build your application, you will simply have to connect your Android device using USB to your computer. So first of all, when you're going to open the build settings, you need to select the device over here, but in most cases, you're not going to see it because you still need to enable a few things. The first thing you need to enable is go over here to Edit, Project Settings, and in Editor, you need to select any Android device. So after this is selected, it will know to actually search for an Android device connected to your PC. Okay, another thing you need to do is enable the debugging feature on your phone. If you don't know how to do this, simply go to Google and search for allow debugging on Android something. I don't know what device you have, so simply type in model Galaxy 10, for example, which is an older phone, and then you can see a video about how to enable this. And if you have another model, just search for another model. You need to enable this developer's options. You can see it's some kind of menu that you get inside your phone. And inside of this menu, you will be able to use USB debugging, and this will allow you to actually build to your phone and Unity to recognize your phone. So after you do all of this, you will be able to plug your phone to your PC, and over here you can click on refresh, and then it's going to show you the name of your device. Then all you need to do is select your device and click over here, build and run, or just build. Now, I cannot do this because I'm recording this episode, so I am using my USB port, but it will basically be very straightforward. You will see the name of your device and you're going to click on build. So if you click on build, it will just ask you to create some kind of file. You give this file a name, you select a folder, you can even create some kind of build folder. And if I click over here on build, you can see that inside your project, you can simply create a build folder, and inside you can give some kind of name to your APK. And APK is just the name of this executable for Android. So like you have exe for Windows programs, APK is the file type for Android. So just give it a name. You can say test1 or maybe build1, and then you click on save, and it will take some time and it will build it and run it on your device. And then you can also go to this folder and simply copy this file, this APK file, and send it to your friends. You can upload it to the Google Store and actually publish it. I'm not going to go through this entire process of publishing an app. Obviously, you first need to create a developer's account in Google, and then you need to get approved. So it's a process that takes some time to actually publish an app. So I'm not going to do it, but you can read about it on the internet. You can watch a video about how to do it. But this is the file that you're using, okay? This APK. This is the actual build of your app. Another thing that I need to mention, when you run this on your phone, if you remember, we are saving the master volume to the local storage. And if we don't have a value yet, so the first time you're going to run it, it's going to return you a value of 0. So the first time you run this app, the music will be silent and you will have to go to options and increase the volume. If you don't want this to happen, if you want your user to actually have some music the first time he installs the app, we need to provide it with a default value that will actually run some music. So for this, we can go to our, let's say, where is it? Master volume controller. And inside, when we load the master volume, we want to give it a default. I say over here that it will return 1, but it will actually return 0. That's why the volume will be quiet. It will be muted. So for this, we're going to add 1 over here. And basically means that if this is the first time you're running the app and it will not find this master volume, this key inside of your player pref, it will return 0, and it means that the app will be muted. So now we are providing it with a default value 1, which is basically 100% of the volume, and then the player can actually use his own volume. So make sure you add this. Otherwise, when you install it on your phone, it will be muted in the beginning. So now we're basically done with this application. As I told you, if a lot of you ask for some kind of feature, I'm going to create more, let's call them bonus episodes where I show you how to do all of these features. But if you really want this, make sure to comment and I will see what is something that is popular among you, and then I'm going to create episodes about this. I have some things in mind, but I really want to know that people watch this series and actually ask for these things. So this is the official end of this series, but it's not the end because I am probably going to do more episodes for more specific things. Things like maybe adding more values to the user, for example, a country, or maybe filtering the different leaderboards by countries. Maybe you want to know how to do speed-based score. So the faster you answer a question, the more score you get, right? So there's a lot of options that I did not cover. And if you ask for these things, I'm going to show you how to do them. Now, after you build your app and you polish everything and the UI looks good and the experience looks good, there are a few paths that you can take when it comes to publishing. One simple option is to share the APK file that you created directly with your friends or maybe other people in your community. This is great for a quick feedback or just for testing. But if you're looking to reach a larger audience, you might want to consider official apps like Google Play or other websites that allow you to publish apps. Publishing on Google Play allows you to reach millions of potential users and gives your game more visibility. So you can add ads, or maybe you can just upload it for free so people can enjoy it and it can be some kind of project that you can be proud of. Now, there are different steps involved in either approach, and I'm not going to go into details, but the main steps are to sign up and open a Google developer's account. Then you will have to pay something just to open this account. I don't remember how much, I think $25, but this is just a one-time fee. And then you will be able to upload your APK and basically go through this process. You will have to test it. You will have to provide different screenshots and different information. And eventually, if it will be approved by Google, it will appear on the Google Play Store. Now, it doesn't matter which option you choose, it's very important to first test your game, because we played a bit with the different menus and I showed you how to do things, but I can't possibly cover all the different scenarios. So you really need to test your app, you need to try to click on things, you need to try to give it to your friends so they will give you feedback, maybe things you want to improve, maybe buttons are not responding correctly, right? So you need to make sure that your app is tested. Otherwise, if you deploy it to Google Store, then millions of people are going to see this app, they're going to experience it, and then they're going to leave you with bad reviews. So you really want to make sure that everything is polished and everything is tested. Another very important aspect of publishing a mobile game or any other game is marketing, because if you upload this game to Google Play, don't expect millions of people to just find your app. You need to do marketing, and marketing is basically advertising. You need to let the world know that you have this new game out. So you can create ads, you can post video trailers of your game on YouTube, maybe you can post your game on Reddit, on Facebook. The more exposure your game has, the better your game will sell and basically get more downloads. And it's a great idea to start with the marketing before you publish the game. So you want to let people know that this game is going to come out. So you want to build up some kind of expectation and anticipation. And then when the game comes out, you will instantaneously have a big amount of downloads. So you don't want to wait until it's published to start advertising it, okay? You want to have some kind of community of people that are waiting for this game. So as I told you, I will probably add more bonus episodes about small things you can consider adding into your game. But for the main part, this series is over. Also, if I encounter some comments saying that there is a bug in this thing or that thing, I'm also going to fix it. And the next bonus episode that comes out, I will simply show you how to fix these things. But again, I cannot cover all the different scenarios, so you will have to test your game. You will have to polish it. You will have to create a beautiful UI, because this is an ugly UI. Don't even think about publishing this kind of game with this UI, because no one is going to download it. They will see the screenshots and they will say that's kind of lame, even if the game is good, even if you have good questions, even if it's fun, it will not attract them. So really build a great and beautiful UI that is going to attract people. So that's all for this series. Thank you for watching. If you completed the entire series, also let me know in the comments section. So thank you for sticking this far. And also, if you liked it, you can leave a like for the algorithm. You can share it with your friends, and good luck with your application.